The massive doors of the Galactic Council chamber slid open with a deep rumble that echoed through the crystalline halls. Representatives from 47 different worlds hurried inside, their various forms of communication creating a symphony of clicks, whistles, hums, and flashing lights. Something big was happening, and everyone could feel the tension in the recycled air. Ambassador Kethvar stepped up to the speaking platform in the center of the room. His blue skin was darker than usual, which everyone knew meant he was worried. Very worried. His 4 arms gestured for silence as his voice carried through the translation devices that helped all the different species understand each other. "Friends of the Council," he began, his words coming out in clicks and whistles that the machines turned into common galactic speech. "We have discovered something that changes everything we know about intelligent life in the universe." A ripple of concern moved through the chamber. The insect-like Queen Zelnatha leaned forward on her 6 legs, her antenna twitching with curiosity. "What could be so important that you called an emergency meeting?" Kethvar's membrane wings fluttered behind him, a sure sign he was nervous. 3 days ago, our scout ships detected a new species in 12 different star systems at the same time. They call themselves humans. At first, we thought they were just another primitive race that had barely learned to travel between stars. "So why are we here?" asked Commander Thalzek, his scarred shell gleaming under the chamber lights. "We encounter new species all the time. Because," Kethvar said slowly, "these humans do something that should be impossible for any intelligent creature to survive." He paused, looking around the room at all the different alien faces staring back at him. "They become completely unconscious for 8 hours out of every 24-hour period." The chamber exploded into chaos. Species that talked with flashing colors began blinking rapidly. Others released clouds of scent that made the air cleaners work overtime. Several delegates started talking at once, their voices mixing into a confused babble. "Impossible!" shouted the voice box of the Vex Collective, a hive mind that shared thoughts across thousands of individual bodies. No smart creature could survive being helpless for that long every single day. Kethvar waited for the noise to die down before continuing. "That's what we thought too. But our spies have been watching them and the evidence is clear. Every single human shuts down completely for about 8 hours every day. They call it sleep. During this time they lie perfectly still, their eyes close, and they cannot respond to anything around them." Dr. Velnara, the Council's top expert on alien life forms, floated closer to the platform. Her tentacles were shaking as she spoke. "Are you certain they're truly unconscious? Perhaps it's some form of meditation or rest state where they remain partially aware." "No," Kethvar replied firmly. "Our scanners show that their brain activity drops to almost nothing. They experience something they call dreams, which appear to be hallucinations while unconscious. A simple predator could walk up and kill them easily during this time." The ancient sage prime of the Eternal Order, whose species had evolved beyond physical bodies millions of years ago, spoke in musical tones that filled the entire chamber. "In all my eons of existence studying countless worlds and civilizations, I have never encountered a thinking species that regularly becomes defenseless. Evolution removes such dangerous traits quickly." "That's exactly the problem," Kethvar continued, his voice growing more troubled. "These humans shouldn't exist according to everything we know about how life develops. Yet not only do they exist, they're thriving. Their technology is almost as advanced as ours. Their ships can travel faster than light. Their weapons could destroy planets." Queen Zelnatha's compound eyes glittered with confusion. "How do their children survive? How do they protect their cities? If an entire population becomes helpless for 8 hours every day, any predator species should have wiped them out long ago." "We don't know," Kethvar admitted. "That's why we're here. According to their own records, humans have been doing this sleep behavior for thousands of years. Their entire civilization is built around the idea that everyone will be unconscious for 1/3 of each day." The war commander of the Stellar Dominion, a massive creature covered in natural armor, spoke up. "Perhaps they have advanced defensive systems that protect them while they sleep?" "They do," Kethvar confirmed, "but that raises even more questions. How did a species that loses 8 hours every day to helplessness develop such sophisticated technology? How did they advance beyond stone tools when they're vulnerable to attack 1/3 of the time?" Dr. Velnara's bioscanner beeped softly as she processed the information. "The biological impossibility is staggering. Sleep should be the first trait eliminated by natural selection. The fact that it persists suggests either our understanding of evolution is completely wrong, or these humans represent something entirely outside normal biological development." The chamber fell silent as the full implications sank in. If their scientific understanding was wrong, everything they knew about life in the universe was questionable. If humans were something new and different, they represented an unknown factor that could change the balance of galactic civilization. Commander Thalzek finally broke the silence. "What do you recommend we do?" Kethvar looked around the chamber at representatives from dozens of worlds, each trying to process this impossible information. "I propose we send our best scientists and military observers to study these humans closely. We need to understand how consciousness-impaired beings achieved space travel and advanced technology. Until we solve this mystery, humanity represents the greatest puzzle in galactic history." The vote was immediate and unanimous. Within hours, the most advanced research fleets ever assembled departed for human space, carrying scientists, philosophers, and military analysts. Their mission was simple in concept but staggering in implication: figure out how a species conquered the stars while spending half their lives unconscious. None of them realized they were about to discover that evolution's greatest apparent mistake was actually its most brilliant success. Dr. Velnara stared at her instruments for what felt like the 100th time that day, her tentacles trembling with frustration. The readings couldn't be right. They simply couldn't be. But every scanner, every biological monitor, every piece of advanced equipment on the research station showed the same impossible results. The human in the observation chamber was completely unconscious. "Tech specialist Corvan," she called to her assistant, whose crystalline body pulsed with worried colors. "Run the brain scans again. There must be an error in our equipment." "Doctor," Corvan's harmonic voice carried notes of confusion, "I've run the scans 16 times. The results are always the same. The human designated Thomas Baker has been unconscious for 7 hours and 43 minutes. Velnara floated closer to the transparent chamber where the human lay motionless on a soft surface he had called a bed. His chest rose and fell steadily, his heart continued beating, but his brain showed almost no activity. It was like watching someone in a medical coma, except this human had entered this state naturally and would apparently wake up healthy and alert. "This violates every principle of evolutionary biology," she muttered, adjusting her bioscanner once more. "No intelligent species can afford to be completely helpless for 8 hours every day. The first predator that discovered this pattern would have eliminated them." The research station's scientific progress held 5 human specimens who had been captured during a routine patrol mission. The humans claimed to be peaceful traders, and they had cooperated fully with all research requests. In fact, they seemed almost amused by the aliens' fascination with their sleep cycles. "Doctor," Corvan pulsed with deeper blue tones, "the female human designated Mary Johnson is entering what they call REM sleep. Her eye movements are becoming rapid while she remains completely unconscious." Velnara hurried to the second observation chamber. The instruments showed something that made no sense at all. While Mary Johnson lay perfectly still and unresponsive, her brain was suddenly very active. Not awake, but creating complex patterns that the humans claimed were dreams. "Computer, record this observation," Velnara said aloud. Day 15 of Human Sleep Study. Subject Mary Johnson is experiencing vivid brain activity while remaining completely unconscious. When questioned about this phenomenon, humans describe experiencing complex visual and emotional scenarios that they know are not real, yet they seem to find this perfectly normal. She manipulated the holographic display to show brain scans from the past 2 weeks. Every human specimen shows the same pattern. 8 hours of complete vulnerability, during which they experience hallucinations they call dreams, followed by a gradual return to consciousness that takes several minutes. The laboratory door slid open and Commander Zaxthal entered with heavy steps. His insect-like form moved with the sharp precision of a military officer, but his mandibles clicked with obvious confusion. "Doctor," he said through his translator, "I've been reviewing the tactical implications of human sleep patterns. How did this species survive long enough to develop weapons that could threaten the Council?" "That's exactly what I'm trying to understand," Velnara replied, her tentacles gesturing toward the display screens. "Look at these numbers. Humans spend approximately 1/3 of their lives completely unconscious. During this time they cannot defend themselves, cannot care for their young, cannot respond to emergencies. Yet somehow they built a civilization spanning multiple star systems." Commander Zaxthal studied the brain scans with professional interest. "Perhaps they developed advanced warning systems? Automated defenses that protect them while they sleep?" "They do have such systems," Velnara confirmed, "but that only makes the mystery deeper. How did a species that loses 8 hours every day develop technology advanced enough to protect unconscious individuals? They should have been eliminated by natural selection before they invented the wheel." A soft chime indicated that Thomas Baker was beginning to wake up. Velnara watched with fascination as his brain patterns slowly increased in complexity, like a computer system gradually coming online. His eyes opened slowly, and he sat up with the sluggish movements that all humans showed after sleeping. "Good morning, Dr. Velnara," Thomas said in heavily accented Galactic Standard. "Learning anything interesting about human biology?" "Human Baker," she replied through her translator, "your species' sleep requirement challenges everything we understand about intelligent life. How did you survive as a species when you're helpless for 8 hours daily?" Thomas stretched his arms above his head and yawned, displaying his teeth in what Velnara had learned was not a threat gesture but a biological response to waking up. "Doctor, I think you're looking at this the wrong way. You see sleep as a weakness. We learned to see it as a tool." "How can unconsciousness be a tool?" "Because it forced us to work together," Thomas explained patiently. "When one human sleeps, others stay awake to watch for danger, care for children, and keep civilization running. We had to learn cooperation and teamwork just to survive as a species." Velnara's bioscanner nearly slipped from her grasp. "You're saying that your biological weakness forced you to develop superior social cooperation?" "Not just cooperation. Efficiency. Every human knows they only have 16 hours per day to accomplish their goals. It makes us very focused on getting things done quickly and effectively." Commander Zaxthal's mandibles clicked rapidly, his species equivalent of deep thought. "Your sleep requirement created pressure to maximize productivity during waking hours?" "Exactly. We built our entire civilization around the assumption that individuals would be unavailable for 1/3 of each day. Our cities, our factories, our governments, everything operates continuously because we learned we couldn't depend on any individual being available at all times." The implications hit Velnara like a physical blow. Her tentacles went limp as she processed what the human was suggesting. "Your greatest biological weakness became the foundation of your civilization's greatest strengths?" Thomas smiled, another expression that had initially terrified the research team but which they now recognized as friendly. "Doctor, evolution doesn't always eliminate weaknesses. Sometimes it teaches species to work around them. Humans couldn't evolve past the need for sleep, so we evolved ways to thrive despite it." As Thomas walked to the chamber's small food preparation area, moving with the casual confidence of someone completely comfortable with his surroundings, Velnara realized that everything the Galactic Council thought they knew about survival and evolution might be wrong. These humans had turned their greatest vulnerability into their species' defining strength, and the implications for galactic civilization were staggering. Captain William Carter sat quietly in the interrogation chamber, his hands folded calmly on the metal table while 3 different alien species stared at him with what he could only describe as complete bewilderment. After 3 weeks of being a guest on this council research station, he had grown used to their fascination with the most basic aspects of human life. "Human Carter," Commander Zaxthal clicked his mandibles impatiently, "you have told us that your species built star-traveling ships while losing 8 hours every day to unconsciousness. This makes no logical sense." William leaned back in his chair, a movement that made the crystalline alien Corvan flash nervous colors. Humans apparently moved in ways that made other species uncomfortable, though William couldn't understand why shifting position would be threatening. "Commander, I think you're missing something important," William said slowly. "We didn't build our civilization in spite of needing sleep. We built it because we need sleep." The room fell completely silent except for the quiet hum of recording devices. Dr. Velnara's tentacles stopped their constant movement, while tech specialist Morgan's bioluminescent patches dimmed to almost nothing. "Explain this statement," Zaxthal demanded. "It's simple really. Every human knows they'll be unconscious for 8 hours out of every 24. So we designed everything around that basic fact." William gestured toward a holographic display showing the interior of a human spacecraft. "Look at our ships. They never stop operating because we learned to work in shifts." Dr. Velnara floated closer, her bioscanner beeping softly. "But surely this creates problems. Constant changes of personnel, communication difficulties, unfamiliarity with equipment systems." "Actually, it creates the opposite effect," William replied with a smile that no longer made the aliens flinch. They had learned that showing teeth was a friendly gesture for humans, not a threat display. "Because we had to plan for people being asleep, we automated everything. Our ships can run themselves for days without human input. Our factories operate around the clock with minimal supervision." The main screen activated, showing footage of a massive human industrial complex. Enormous automated systems moved with perfect coordination while small groups of humans monitored operations from control rooms high above the factory floor. "Your people work in precise 8-hour periods," observed Corvan, his crystalline structure resonating with tones of amazement. 3 complete teams rotating through each day cycle. Exactly right. While other species evolved to work alone for long periods, humans had to learn to work in teams. We had no choice. When one human goes to sleep, others must take over all their responsibilities immediately. Commander Zaxthal's scarred carapace gleamed under the bright laboratory lights. This explains the reports from our intelligence division. Human manufacturing output exceeds our projections by enormous amounts. Because we never stop working, William confirmed. While your species evolved past needing rest, you also never developed true 24-hour operational systems. Your people work for very long periods then take very long breaks. Humans work in perfectly coordinated shifts. Our civilization literally never sleeps. The full meaning of his words hit the assembled aliens like a shock wave. Dr. Velnara's bioscanner clattered to the floor as her manipulator arms went completely limp. Impossible, she whispered through her translator. You are claiming that your biological weakness forced you to develop superior organizational methods? Not forced. Taught, William corrected gently. Every human child learns they will spend 1/3 of their life sleeping. So we built our entire society around making the most of our waking hours. Our schools, our work schedules, our transportation systems, everything operates on the assumption that humans will be unavailable 8 hours per day. The display screen shifted to show human cities at night. The aliens saw gleaming towers with lights moving in all the windows, vehicles flowing smoothly through streets, and automated systems maintaining infrastructure while most humans slept. Your cities continue full operations during local darkness periods, Corvan observed, his harmonic tones climbing into frequencies that indicated deep concern. Of course they do. We learned thousands of years ago that civilization works best when it operates continuously. So we built systems that function whether humans are awake or asleep. Our defense networks, our manufacturing systems, even our governments operate around the clock. Commander Zaxthal stood up suddenly, his movement sharp and agitated. You are telling us that because you lose 8 hours per day, you have developed systems that operate more efficiently than Council civilization? I'm telling you that we've developed systems that never stop operating, William clarified. While your species evolved to work without needing rest, you never needed to build truly continuous civilization. Humans solved that problem 30,000 years ago, or our species would have died out. The interrogation chamber fell into stunned silence. The assembled aliens were beginning to understand the scope of what they were dealing with. This wasn't just a species with an unusual biological requirement. This was a civilization that had turned their greatest evolutionary disadvantage into an unprecedented competitive advantage. Captain Carter, Dr. Velnara's voice carried something that sounded almost like fear. Your sleep requirement forced you to develop technologies and social systems that operate more efficiently than anything the Council has achieved in millions of years? William nodded seriously. And we've been perfecting these systems for our entire history as a species. Every advance in human technology, every social innovation, every aspect of our civilization has been designed around the basic assumption that humans will be unconscious 1/3 of the time. Suddenly, alarms began blaring throughout the station. Red emergency lights bathed the chamber as automated systems announced the approach of unidentified vessels. Captain, Commander Zaxthal's mandibles clicked rapidly with what William recognized as anxiety. How many ships are approaching our position? William checked the chronometer on his wrist and smiled calmly. Well, Commander, that depends entirely on which shift is currently on duty. The aliens realized with growing horror that they were about to discover exactly how efficiently a civilization could operate when it truly never slept. Admiral James Mitchell stood calmly on the bridge of the human warship Endurance, watching 300 alien vessels surround his small fleet of 60 ships. The Council commanders clearly believed their superior numbers would make this a quick and easy victory. They had positioned their forces in a classic encirclement pattern, cutting off all escape routes. They had no idea what they were actually facing. Admiral, reported Captain Susan Brown from her position at the communications station, the Council fleet is sending us a message. They want us to surrender immediately. James nodded slowly. Put them through, Captain. Let's see what they have to say. The main viewing screen flickered to life, showing the angular face of Fleet Commander Thalzek. His translator turned his harsh clicking sounds into standard galactic speech, though the mechanical voice could not hide his obvious confidence. Human Admiral, you will surrender your vessels at once. Your species has been declared a threat to galactic peace. You are completely outnumbered and have no chance of victory. Fleet Commander, James replied in a calm, steady voice, I'm afraid we cannot surrender. You see, you've made a serious mistake about human military capabilities. Thalzek's 4 eyes narrowed with irritation. Your ships are outnumbered 5 to 1. Your species becomes helpless for 8 hours every day. How can you possibly hope to defeat the combined forces of the Galactic Council? Because while you were studying our biology, you failed to learn about our strategy, James answered. You're about to face something that has never existed before in galactic history. A species that has been preparing for continuous warfare for thousands of years. The battle began exactly as Fleet Commander Thalzek expected. His ships opened fire with coordinated precision, their energy weapons and missiles filling space with deadly light. The textbook attack should have overwhelmed the smaller human force within minutes. But after 6 hours of fighting, something was going terribly wrong. This is impossible. Thalzek's voice crackled over the communication channel, no longer confident but filled with confusion. Your crews should be exhausted by now. Fleet Commander, James responded, his voice still perfectly calm, what time does your ship's chronometer show? It has been 18 hours since the battle began. Why does this matter? Because your crews have been fighting continuously for 18 hours without rest. Mine? James glanced at his own chronometer. Alpha shift just rotated to Charlie shift 20 minutes ago. My people are completely fresh. The tactical display told the horrifying story. While Council vessels showed increasingly sloppy maneuvers and delayed responses, human ships maintained perfect formation and peak performance. As alien crews grew tired and made mistakes, human vessels seemed to become more dangerous with each passing hour. Fleet Commander Thalzek stared at his tactical screens in disbelief. His weapons officers were making targeting errors they would never have made when alert. His navigation specialists were plotting courses that showed obvious signs of fatigue-induced confusion. Meanwhile, the human ships moved with mechanical precision. Admiral Brown, Captain Susan reported from her station, Council forces are showing clear signs of exhaustion across their entire fleet. Response times have decreased by 30%. Several of their ships have already made serious tactical errors. Maintain standard rotation schedule, James ordered. Bravo shift takes command in 2 hours. Aboard the Council flagship, panic was beginning to spread. Officers who had been sharp and focused 12 hours earlier now struggled with basic calculations. Weapon systems that had fired with deadly accuracy at the battle's start were now missing targets they should have hit easily. Fleet Commander, his tactical officer reported through a voice thick with exhaustion, the humans appear to be getting stronger as the battle continues. Their accuracy and coordination are actually improving. Thalzek felt something he had never experienced before in his military career, the cold grip of fear. After 20 hours of continuous combat, his forces were approaching complete collapse while human vessels maintained flawless operational status. How is this possible? He transmitted desperately to the human admiral. How can you maintain peak performance for so long? James's response came through crystal-clear communications while Council transmissions were becoming garbled from crew fatigue. Because we've been planning for exactly this situation our entire evolutionary history, Fleet Commander. Every human military doctrine assumes round-the-clock operations. While your species evolved past needing rest, you never developed systems for fighting without rest. What had started as a confident attack was turning into a disaster. Council vessels, operated by crews who hadn't slept in over 20 hours, began making increasingly desperate mistakes. Ships collided with each other. Weapons fired at friendly vessels. Navigation systems plotted courses that led ships directly into asteroid fields. Our people need sleep, Thalzek finally admitted, his pride crumbling. We must withdraw to allow our crews to recover. That's exactly the problem, James replied. Humans don't take recovery breaks during combat. We've been rotating fresh crews into battle while you've been running the same exhausted personnel for 24 hours straight. You're fighting a civilization that designed warfare around the assumption that battles never stop. As if to prove his point, long-range sensors detected something that made Thalzek's blood run cold. More human ships were approaching. Dozens of them, all showing full operational readiness. Fleet Commander, his communications officer reported in a voice barely above a whisper, sensors show 63 additional human vessels approaching our position. All ships appear to have fresh crews aboard. Thalzek realized the full scope of his tactical nightmare. They weren't just fighting one human fleet. They were fighting a military system that could maintain continuous operations indefinitely. While Council forces needed rest and recovery time, humans could simply bring in new ships with new crews to continue the battle. The retreat became a desperate flight as Council commanders finally understood what they were facing. An enemy that never slept, never tired, and never stopped fighting. Humanity had turned their greatest biological weakness into the ultimate military advantage. The species that conquered the stars while sleeping 8 hours a day had just taught the galaxy a lesson about the true meaning of endurance. 8 months after the great battle that changed everything, Ambassador Peter Williams walked into the same crystal chambers where the Galactic Council had first called humanity impossible. The faces and sensory organs of 47 different species watched him with emotions ranging from respect to curiosity to something that might have been embarrassment. The war was over. Humanity had won, but not through better weapons or superior numbers. They had won simply by never getting tired. While alien fleets exhausted themselves trying to fight around the clock, human forces had just kept rotating fresh crews into battle. The discovery that a weakness could become such a powerful advantage had shocked every civilization in the galaxy. Honored members of the Council, Peter began, his words flowing clearly through the translation systems that helped all species communicate. We gather today not as winners and losers, but as neighbors trying to understand each other. Fleet Commander Thalzek, his once proud shell now bearing scars from his defeat, clicked his mandibles in reluctant respect. Human Ambassador, your people have shown us that everything we thought we knew about warfare and evolution was wrong. We accept this truth. Dr. Velnara floated closer, holding her bioscanner like it was a precious treasure. Ambassador Williams, our research has proven that human sleep cycles forced your species to develop coordination systems beyond anything we imagined. While we evolved to overcome biological limits, you learned to succeed because of those limits. Peter nodded politely. Doctor, you're starting to understand the real picture. Humans didn't defeat our need for sleep. We learned to build our entire civilization around it. Every system we created reflects the simple fact that individuals will be unconscious for 8 hours every day. The Sage Prime of the Eternal Order, whose species had evolved beyond physical bodies long ago, filled the chamber with musical tones of newfound respect. Your automated systems, your shift-based work schedules, your backup command structures, all of these came from biological necessity. Exactly. While your species developed individual excellence, humans had to develop group strength. A human can sleep peacefully because they know others will handle their responsibilities. This created trust and cooperation between people that no other species has achieved. Commander Zaxthal leaned forward, his battle-scarred carapace catching the chamber lights. Your military tactics assume continuous operation because your species solved that problem just to survive daily life. Every human city runs 24 hours a day. Every human factory maintains non-stop production. Every human government continues functioning no matter which individuals are available at any moment. We've been practicing civilizational endurance for thousands of years. The chamber buzzed with translated conversations as different species began to grasp what this meant. Ambassador Kethvar of the Sethari Empire spoke up first. Are you saying that humanity's biological requirement actually created superior organizational methods? Peter smiled, and the aliens no longer found the expression frightening. I'm saying that different approaches create different strengths. Human systems excel at continuous operation and group coordination. Council species excel at individual capability and sustained focus. Imagine what we could accomplish by combining these strengths. The central display screen activated, showing Peter's proposal for the future. The images demonstrated integrated human-alien operations that used the best qualities of both approaches. Human shift systems providing constant monitoring while alien specialists used their extended focus abilities for deep research. Human automation supporting alien studies that required days or weeks of uninterrupted work. You're proposing cooperative symbiosis, Dr. Velnara observed, her tentacles moving excitedly. Human systems maintaining continuous operations while council species provide specialized expertise during extended work periods. Think about the possibilities. Human factories providing round-the-clock production while Eternal Order philosophers spend weeks in deep thought. Human transportation systems operating continuously while Vex collective minds process enormous amounts of data during long computational periods. The War Commander of the Stellar Dominion shifted his massive armored body. Your species defeated our combined fleets. Why offer cooperation instead of demanding conquest? Peter's expression became serious. Because conquest creates enemies and rebellion. Cooperation creates strength. Humanity learned long ago that our individual limitations require group solutions. The same principle works for galactic civilization. Fleet Commander Thalzek clicked thoughtfully. Human shiftwork principles applied to galactic defense could create strategic capabilities no single species could match. Imagine defense networks that never sleep, maintained by species that never tire, coordinated by systems designed for continuous operation. No enemy could overcome such unified coordination. The Hive Queen Zelnatha's antenna twitched rapidly with excitement. Your proposal suggests that biological diversity creates technological opportunities rather than evolutionary hierarchy. Every species developed solutions to their specific challenges. Humans developed systems for continuous operation because we had to survive our sleep requirement. Council species developed individual excellence because you could focus for extended periods. Together, these approaches become more powerful than either one alone. The chamber fell into thoughtful silence as 47 different civilizations considered the implications. Finally, the Sage Prime's harmonics filled the space with sounds of approval. For millions of years, galactic civilization assumed that evolution moved toward eliminating biological weaknesses. Humanity proves that apparent weaknesses can become sources of incredible strength when properly understood and systematically managed. Peter nodded. We don't propose that humanity should lead galactic civilization. We suggest that we contribute our knowledge of continuous operation and group coordination while learning from your individual capabilities and extended focus abilities. The vote was quick and unanimous. As the session ended and delegates began leaving, Dr. Velnara approached Peter with her bioscanner. Ambassador, I have one final question about human sleep. Of course, Doctor. Do you ever wish you didn't need 8 hours of unconsciousness every day? Peter thought carefully about the question. Doctor, humans learned that our limitations forced us to develop our greatest strengths. We don't regret needing sleep. We're grateful for everything it taught us about cooperation, automation, and continuous operation. Sometimes what looks like evolution's biggest mistake turns out to be its greatest gift. As the council chambers emptied, a new age of galactic cooperation began. An age that recognized that diversity of approach, including biological diversity, created strength rather than weakness. Humanity had conquered the stars not despite sleeping half their lives, but because of it.